Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this week we have a lot to talk about with upcoming iOS releases. We'll talk about iPhone 18, even iPhone 19, and other future updates as well. This is your weekly Apple News update for the week of October 27th, 2025. Apple has said that the new Passport in Wallet feature is coming soon. That will allow you to add your passport in the Wallet app on iOS, and you'll be able to use your passport just like you can your driver's license in certain states, but you'll be able to use this within the United States. According to Jennifer Bailey, who's the VP of Apple Pay and Wallet, said in a recent keynote at a conference in Las Vegas on Sunday that it was coming soon. So this should maybe be in iOS 26.1 or possibly a little bit later on. Apple is looking to increase its production of AirPods to more than double what it currently has at its Foxconn India facility later this year. The facility in Hyderabad is expected to double its output according to the Economic Times and hire more employees to meet demand. So it looks like Apple continues to diversify its overall production output and where it's actually making things, but also pushing more of that to India as well. It seems that the long-rumored ads paid for by restaurants and businesses within Apple Maps to show their business more prominently may be coming in the near future, according to Mark Gurman of Bloomberg. Apple already does this in the App Store and is looking for new ways to earn revenue, of course, as it's a business. So within the App Store, an app developer can promote its specific app. You'll see an ad here with Do at Night Abyss, and that's being promoted. You'll see something similar to that in ads for different businesses. It makes sense. It's great not to actually have ads pop up on your screen. So maybe when you're searching for something locally, if someone paid for an ad, maybe you would see that restaurant more prominently. So that's something they could be doing in the near future. Also, Apple is working on a few different Mac apps to bring them to the iPad, it seems, according to a recent post by Aaron P613 on X. You can see the story here where he uncovered 4 App Store IDs, which he believes are related to iPad apps for Pixelmator Pro, Compressor, Motion, and Mainstage for Logic Pro. So this would be great to have on the iPad. Apple introduced Final Cut Pro, but Pixelmator Pro is something I use for different things throughout videos and thumbnails and more. And so to have all of that directly on the iPad would mean I could use the iPad full time if I wanted to while traveling. So I can't wait to see that if they're going to release it. Hopefully they release it as soon as this week, though. As far as recent deals this week, well, it seems like AirPods are always on perpetual discount, so I'll link those in the description below, but AirPods 4, for example, and also the latest M5 iPad Pro is discounted on Amazon from Apple, so that's available. I'll link those in the description below, and other recent deals as well. When it comes to releases this week, well, Apple is working on iOS 26.0.2 according to Mac Rumors. However, we haven't seen a release of that yet. Apple stopped signing iOS 26 some time ago, meaning that we can only downgrade or restore from iOS 26.0.1 and the recent iOS 26.1 Beta 4. This is a bit unusual to have this much of a gap between where we don't have multiple download options, but maybe we'll see that very soon. However, some people suspect they could skip that altogether and we could see iOS 26.1 RC as soon as this week. If Apple does plan to push iOS 26.1 RC instead of Beta 5, it could be as soon as tomorrow. However, I suspect that at least at some point today, we would see 26.0.2 with maybe Beta 5 releasing tomorrow. But if they do release the RC sometime this week, I don't think we'll see iOS 26.0.2, as that would mean as soon as next Monday on November 3rd, we could see iOS 26.1 released to the public. If we do have a Beta 5, well, then it could be November 10th. So we don't know exactly until they push out an update, but that's sort of what we're expecting so far. So if we do see an RC, they'll skip 26.0.2. If not, I would expect that release very, very soon. Also, one other thing to note is once iOS 26.1 releases to the public, we'll see iOS 26.2 Beta 1. We'll expect some new updates, and maybe we'll see that passport feature, or again, that could be with 26.1. Apple hasn't said specifically. When it comes to future iPhone releases, well, Apple is again planning to make an iPhone 17e this year, just like they did with the 16e last year. It's expected to get a small change. Of course, we'll probably have a similar form factor, but we're expected to get rid of the notch and replace it with a dynamic island next year. This is according to a recent leak on Weibo from a reliable leaker, Instant Digital. He also suggests the iPhone 18 will feature a smaller dynamic island. So it looks like they could bring the dynamic island currently that we have, just like this one, over to the 17e, and then make it even smaller for the iPhone 18. Also, Digital Chat Station on Weibo has said that the iPhone 18 will have more of a translucent and specifically slightly more transparent ceramic shield. This would be over the MagSafe area, so over the back of the phone, where we have sort of the two-tone design with the MagSafe adapter and our ceramic shield. This could be more translucent. That would be a different look that we haven't seen in a while, and maybe it could be on a special version of the phone as well. Also, Ming Chi Kup is saying that the iPhone 18s could feature a variable aperture camera. Now, this may not be on all phones next year. Instead, it would rather be on the Pro Max phones. So we could see a variable aperture camera, and that would be something that would allow us to control the amount of light and sort of the depth of field. We've also heard that Apple is working on their own image sensor for future iPhones, and YEUX1122 on the Korean Naver blog has said that Apple's sensor may show up in future models. The sensor is said to use an LOFIC, or lateral overflow integration capacitor, which allows each pixel to adjust for varying amounts of light based on overall brightness of the scene. So to see something revolutionary from Apple with the sensor would definitely push their camera above what it already currently does for video. Also, the base iPhone 18 is also said to feature 12 gigs of RAM next year. This makes a lot of sense, bringing it up to the current Pro levels. Since even the iPhone Air has 12 gigs of RAM, they definitely could bring it to the base model as well. Also, the iPhone 18 could feature satellite internet that utilizes 5G, according to a report from The Information. This would allow for normal 5G usage, but not using cell towers, rather with satellite instead if you chose to do that. So this would be great if you're in a remote area, or maybe just an area with low signal where you'd possibly have better satellite signal instead. It's hard to say if this would benefit in battery at all, but I would love to see additional options for maybe cellular connectivity other than the big three with Verizon, T-Mobile, or AT&T. Now, when it comes to even the further out iPhone, iPhone 19, Apple could skip that name entirely, just like they did with the iPhone 10. Apple may just skip right over iPhone 19, so with the iPhone 10, they released it alongside the iPhone 8, and we didn't see anything like that this year, but maybe we will next year. So maybe we'll have the iPhone 18 along with the iPhone 20. We don't really know at this point, but according to Omdia Research, Apple is planning to skip the iPhone 19 name entirely. Now, also, the A20 chipset that's expected next year could be significantly more expensive due to it using 20nm technology, according to the China Times. TSMC, who makes the chips for Apple, is said to have told Apple to expect a 50% increase from them making the A20 chips over the A19. Now, of course, they have to shrink the process, change a lot of the factory, so maybe it's just R&D or development costs, but either way, we'll have to wait and see if it's more expensive for the consumer or just something Apple has to integrate into their phones to push it forward a little bit more. Now, many of us have stated that maybe the iPhone Air is half of next year's iPhone Fold, where they're learning to make things thinner, integrating it a little bit differently. However, it looks like that could be delayed. The expected release was supposedly 2026, but it could be pushed back to 2027 according to the elec. Some major parts of the design have not been completed, it seems, and if that's the case, it may not make it to 2026. So to get all of the production ready to make millions and millions of phones takes a long time, and to get everything implemented in the supply chain can take months. So maybe we'll see it in 2026, or maybe they're pushing it out a little bit further. Now, we've also heard that Apple's working on foldable iPads. However, recent rumors suggest that maybe that's pushed out to as late as 2029. We've seen things like that from Huawei as far as the foldable devices, but at this point, it looks like the iPad may be delayed even completely or just until 2029. I would love to see maybe a folding MacBook that's sort of an iPad as well, but again, it may be delayed for quite some time. Also, we just got this new M5 iPad Pro, but it seems Apple is already hard at work on the M6 variant, according to Mark Gurman. The main difference would be a vapor chamber to help keep everything cool like they did in the iPhone 17 models this year. I've never really had an issue with the M4 or M5 so far with it overheating, but to help keep everything a little bit more cool, especially if we're going to have even more Pro apps with maybe compressor or different Logic Pro updates, would maybe make sense in maybe a hard use capacity. So using Final Cut Pro, Final Cut Camera, and using it professionally could definitely benefit from maybe a vapor chamber to keep the overall processing speed fast for longer times. The rumored low-end or budget MacBook could still launch by the end of the year. This has been rumored to use a chip from the iPhone, according to Ming Chi Kup in DigiTimes, and it would utilize the A18 Pro chipset instead of the M series chips. Apple has had events in November before, so it's not impossible to see some sort of update, and we're still waiting for an updated Apple TV and new HomePod as well. So maybe we'll see something in November with updated Macs and additional products we didn't see already. Apple just released the M5 variant of the new Apple Vision Pro, and while it's a really nice device to use, it seems that the Apple Vision Pro, at least the second version, may be suspended according to the information. Also, the lighter weight and less expensive version, the Apple Vision Air as many people were calling it, looks to also have been shelved at this point according to Mark Gurman of Bloomberg. This would mean that all future Vision Pro hardware is on hold or possibly canceled going forward. Now, Apple hasn't officially canceled it or anything, but it seems that maybe this has just always been a precursor to the glasses that Apple is said to be working on. So at this point, it looks like they're working on Ray-Ban Meta-style glasses. However, we could see future versions with hardware from the Apple Vision Pro implemented. I'm not sure how they would fit the M5 and all the processing power that we have in the front of the Vision Pro, maybe into smaller glasses, unless it was tethered to maybe something that's similar to the current battery pack. So we are a ways off from everything being miniaturized, but it looks like Apple may have suspended this for now, as it's not necessarily selling well, but it's definitely something worth trying out. But let me know what you think of that, if you think they're just maybe going to push forward on glasses, or if they'll cancel this altogether. Also, many have suspected the iPhone Air would get canceled this year since sales are very low, supposedly. However, they sold out pretty quickly in China, at least right away after going for sale. But it looks like usually every time we have new versions, with the iPhone mini, for example, we get another year of the same phone. So we could see that again upgraded next year, possibly a larger battery. Hopefully they add a speaker, but maybe we'll see some sort of upgraded version and then they'll discontinue it. We don't really have any specific information about it, but that's typically what Apple does every year. So I really like the iPhone Air. We'll probably see an iPhone Air 2, and that's probably it, unless it sells better. And so that's everything this week. There's, of course, lots of different things to look forward to. I'm looking forward to iOS 26.1 releasing to the public, as it seems to be much better than iOS 26.0.1. And then we'll move on to the next versions and, of course, a few others throughout the end of the year, and then many more next year. Let me know what you're looking most forward to with iOS in the comments below, and if you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already, though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.